Welcome to Wildspire. You get to be a fly on the wall for my intimate conversations with entrepreneurs who are changing the world. I'm your host, Stephanie Benedetto, coach, storyteller, and unmarketer at The Awakened Business, helping coaches and change-making entrepreneurs unleash their inspired message and share it with playful unmarketing. I'll ask curious questions and explore uncharted waters with my guest today. Anything can happen when we step into the unknown of infinite creativity, and that's where we're going to play. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to today's guest on my podcast. His name is Mark Silver of Heart of Business. It's a fascinating conversation for me because we're talking about business with someone who finds himself, who identifies as a healer, who brings Sufi principles and a Sufi philosophy into what he teaches about business and sales. As we explore, we look at what does it mean to be honest in business. It's a fascinating conversation that you don't often have, or I don't often have, with business experts. Let me tell you a little bit more about Mark Silver. Since 1999, Mark Silver has worked with heart-centered entrepreneurs to help them realize that every act of business can be an act of love. Mark is one of the pioneers in integrating real spirituality with the nitty-gritty of small business. He founded Heart of Business, Inc. in 2001. A designated master teacher within his Sufi lineage, he has received his Masters of Divinity. As a coach, teacher, and spiritual healer, he has facilitated thousands of individual sessions with entrepreneurs and has led hundreds of classes, seminars, groups, and retreats. His weekly writings and teachings are followed by thousands of people around the globe. A fourth-generation entrepreneur, prior to Heart of Business, Mark ran a distribution business, turned around a struggling nonprofit magazine, and worked as a paramedic in the San Francisco Bay Area. Without further ado, here's Mark Silver. Hello, Mark. Welcome to my Wildspire podcast. It's really lovely to have you here. I almost wish we had started recording before this because we started before we officially started. Something that you said which really intrigues me. I love having guests like you on the podcast who are representing a different way of being in business, a way that we might say is more spiritual. And your business itself is called Heart of Business, which speaks to many things to me. I feel the heart of a person, the heart of a servant. What is the heart of business? And explore, it's a question for me, it feels like. And you said that what you really are is a healer who happens to find yourself in this space of business. Could you tell me a little bit about that? Like how you came to be and how you are being a healer who works with people around business topics?
Thank you so much, Stephanie. It's a great question. I don't know if I can answer the how because I'm like, well, how did I end up here? So weird. Part of what we were talking about before is, my originally, I come from the world of punk, the world of activism, the world of nonprofit stuff, the world of, and I was also a paramedic for years, and I was very hands-on, kind of active, engaged in the world, and when I came to a transition point, because of my work in that world, I knew something about fundraising and outreach and things like that. And we had friends who were self-employed, organic gardeners, people making self-care products, lotions and things like that, and doing really beautiful things. And they didn't know how to market themselves. And I knew a little bit about that. And as I started to help them, I was talking with my wife, Holly, back then, years and years ago, and I'm like, "Oh, people are having all their emotions come up. Like, I need to know how to process emotions, like how to help people with that." And there's story here, but we ended up coming across a Sufi teacher. We were active in the Jewish community at the time, and we came across a Sufi teacher who we eventually became part of the Sufi lineage, and they had a 3-year healership school, learning how to be a spiritual healer. And so I took a 3-year training with with the Sufis with a specialty in business healing. There were different specialties, and one of them was business healing. And then I did the teacher internship program, and then I was the faculty at the teacher internship program, and then I got my master's in divinity studying with them as well. And so I took this deep dive into spiritual healing in the context of business, and there's a lot to be said for that. But like, the way my sheikh, Sidi Al-Jamal, is from he passed in 2015, but he was a teacher at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. He was from Palestinian from Jerusalem and the lineage holder in this ancient Sufi lineage. And he talked about healing as the dissolving of illusion and the falling into the embracing of oneness. Like, it's like healing the illusion of separation, that separation is the illusion and that healing is coming into oneness. Very simple statement, but there's a there's a lot to that. And for my part, the world of business and capitalism in particular over the last few centuries has been so toxic and so harmful. It's not the only healing that's needed for us to have a truly regenerative, thriving, beautiful culture, but it's a place where healing is very badly needed. And so that's what I embraced, is healing in the world of business.
What does that look like these days? What does it mean to heal inside of business?
So the statement that we like to say is that every act of business can be an act of love. It isn't often the way we see it out in the world, but it can be. And so healing for me is in the details. It's maybe an internal experience, yes, of accessing love, even in really difficult places, but it's also the willingness to let go of toxic or harmful systems or patterns and replacing them with healthy ones that are from the love. And it's also a willingness, like, to be able to see through the distortions and to be able to pull that back. So I'm talking kind of vaguely. Let me give an example. So we teach a lot of marketing. It's not the only thing we teach, but marketing is a big thing that we work with people. And everyone talks about, like, you have to talk about the problem. You have to talk about the problem. And the way that it's been taught in our culture is that you talk about the problem as a way of reactivating trauma so that people are in a trauma reaction for real. And the only way to soothe that is to purchase. That's what's presented. It's a it's an incredibly harmful, toxic, dangerous, miserable, evil thing. However, not talking about the problem is not helpful. People and so there's a hadith in the Sufi tradition, the Islamic tradition, that there are these hadith, there's quotes from the Prophet alayhi salam, and that some of these are attributed directly to God. And there's one that says, as if God were speaking, "I was a hidden treasure, and I yearned to be known. And so I created the creation in order to be known." And so the Sufis, like, we believe that there is that divine yearning to be known in all of our hearts. And so if we know that somebody is struggling, and instead of activating their trauma, we can see them as a whole person, as perfect, as beautiful, but also we can see the humanity of the struggle that they're having with care and empathy. It's the difference between, "Oh, you've got back pain, if you don't get this fixed, you'll never pick up your child again, and so you better come get the help or you'll be doomed into a life of misery and disconnection." Like that kind of traumatic, felt horrible even saying it.
Okay.
As opposed to coming from this place of witnessing. It's like you're, like a lot of people, you may have injured yourself, and your back may be hurting and it may be hard to do the things that you really long to do that are important to you. And you can heal. You've seen other people heal from it. You can heal. Healing is available. And and I love to help people do that. If I were a chiropractor, if that was the work that I did. It's like there's a lot of different ways for you to do that. And I love to do that also. And so the witnessing and the gentleness allows someone to take a breath and arrive in themselves and to feel seen in the struggle, but to not feel broken or activated. And that's what we try to teach people.
Mm, that sounds beautiful, Mark. I love the way you express it. And that is one of the things that I hear is this. We know when we're being manipulative and poking at people's wounds. It feels a certain way. It feels icky. You were saying even just speaking that way felt icky. Something about it was not cool. And we don't have to do that. There's a way to acknowledge the experience of someone else that you're talking about as witnessing, which is really cool. That gives someone a deep feeling of being understood without making it into a tactic to try to manipulate their psychology and get them emotionally reactive so that they will buy. So I want to ask you a question about this. And this is an honest question for me because I am in this exploration. And to me, it doesn't really look like a right or wrong, but I'd love to know your take. And it's okay if it does look right or wrong to you, by the way. I'm really okay with that. So one of the things that many people do, myself included, sometimes not always, is create, well, there are like intentional time sensitive deadlines. Like I'm starting this course and hey, in for the next week or so, there's an early bird special and here we are. Now, on the one hand, I've been to marketing 101 school and they tell you, fear and greed, right? You stir up people's fear and their greed. And the fear of missing out is a thing that many of us will experience and some of us react strongly to. And oh, it's going away. And at the same time, with all of the many things that people have on their plate, when you highlight it and say, okay, here's a here's a period of time wherein this is available, or wherein this is available at this
Mhm,
really cool rate, it kind of
mm,
bumps it up on their radar a little bit. And for me, it's like sometimes I'm like, I want to give people an incentive and they don't have to. I'm not poking any wounds about this, or I'm going to say, you're going to be sorry if you don't do it now. But I'm just saying, hey, if you want to, here it is. So I'm kind of curious about what your take is. How do you see this? Where does this
urgency,
fall on it?
urgency,
Yes,
right. Yeah.
urgency. Thank you. And like
Yes,
scarcity, false or real, like,
right. Yeah. So I've written extensively about this. So this is a topic I feel very clear on in myself about, and I love the question. So first of all, when I say like false urgency, like a lie,
Mhm.
is obviously wrong. Like I've seen that too many times because I've been in this industry for 24 years. I've seen and I'm privy to a lot of stories behind the stage, backstage. People who are like, "Oh, we're almost sold out of this high ticket offer. You better jump in." When I know for a fact that they've given away 70% of it for free to make it look like, it's like, or, there's a lot of ways that people manufacture that urgency. And so obviously that's yuck. At the same time, there is a reality to limits. Like there are limits in this world. Like, I was saying earlier, we have a few acres here in central Pennsylvania. We're trying to do a food forest thing. We do gardening. And right now we've got a whole bunch of string beans coming out of the garden, among other things. And you pick them now or you don't get them. We're picking them, we're canning them, we're blanching and freezing them, we're putting them up for the times when they won't be growing in a few months. And there's a few weeks when they're really abundant. And I mean, this is life, right? This is life. There's different things. In a few months, all the hickory nuts are going to be falling, and we get those too. And so there's nothing wrong with recognizing the reality of limits. And so if I'm running a course, there's a start date. And after that, you can't get in because the course has started. And so, however, when we're being responsible, we understand that there's trauma involved and we understand that there's FOMO, fear of missing out, going on, and there's all of this stuff. The responsible use of urgency is one, making sure that it's real, that it's true, and using it to make sure that people who are overwhelmed, who might want what you have, to get their attention, but it's not to be used at the point of purchase. So, and there's ways to de-escalate it. So it's like I will send out emails or put messages up on social media or wherever. It's like deadline coming up in a week, or there's only a few spots left, or whatever's true, and stating that. And then at the point of the purchase saying, okay, now that you've gotten, now that this is interesting, if this is interesting to you, take a breath, slow down, take a look at this. If this is something that you want, now is kind of the time, because then it won't be available. However, and I've said this in messages, you're not broken. If you don't buy this, this isn't going to save you. It's just a matter of whether you want it or not. Or I will say, we're putting up an early bird deadline because you know what? We're a tiny company. If everybody registers at the last minute, it kind of sucks for us. And doesn't mean you can't register at the last minute. That's fine too. We'll handle it. We're adults. We'll handle it. But it's easier for us if the bulk of people register a week ahead of time. And so it's worth it to us to give a discount. And this saves our administrative people from getting overwhelmed, or me from getting overwhelmed. And I'll say this. This is what I'll say in the messages. And so just being really honest about what's true. Something I like to say is that 95% of marketing or sales problems can be solved with honesty. If we're just willing to be honest and say what's true, generally it's totally fine and legit.
What I hear in that is just be real. Don't make shit up. And don't abuse people. Don't be unkind. Be real and be kind in it. Recognize people as the empowered individuals that they are. I like that. I like that a lot. And it causes me to kind of sit with it, because the way I view these things is, well, what feels aligned for you right now? It's the way I address it with clients. It's the way I think about it for myself. Like, what really wants to happen here? And I also have been blessed with partners over the years who are more on the skeptical side than I am, perhaps. And it's great because I went to this, I grew up in the school of hypey copy and learning how to spin. And I'm a writer and I liked it. And sometimes it still rears its head. And so it's nice to have somebody say, Steph, this headline, like, do you really want to say that? Is that this word here? Like the secret to this and that and the other thing, right?
Right.
Sometimes I like it. And sometimes even sitting with it, like the secret, like, yeah, it kind of is a secret, but it's not, it's a secret, not secret. Like, it's a fun way to talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And other times I can feel it's coming from a place of trying to make it something and like weave glamour spells or something. And like, you know what, that
Right.
not so much. And so
Right.
it's finding I have been finding myself in the midst of these choices we have, and help others to do so. So I'm loving what you're sharing, Mark. It's really great.
Mhm.
And this kind of touches on what you brought up earlier around integrity. And you and I are swimming in the schools of people. We're all fish now, in my metaphor. to whom integrity is pretty damn important in one way or another. The people that I'm working with see what they're doing as a calling, sometimes even as a soul calling. And so they want to behave with integrity and they shy away from anything that feels like it's not. So you were saying something about overdosing on integrity.
Ye-
And I would love to hear that because I think it might be really helpful for me and
Yeah.
others like me.
So yeah, so I wrote an article recently called, that I titled "Overdosing on Integrity," and it's come up over the years multiple times because our audience similarly, right? It's like integrity is super important, and there's so like integrity is so lacking in the business world in general that people are. It's just really important. And in fact, that's one of the things that really stops a lot of people in our audience, a lot of people who come to Heart of Business from having moved their business forward because they refuse to do things that are out of integrity. And so they just won't do it because they can't find a way to do it with integrity. And so that's a lot of how we help people is like, oh, there's actually a way to do this with integrity. Or we can confirm, yeah, you don't have to do that at all. Let it go. But the overdose of integrity is actually, what you were saying about just being real, it's like it's also a kind of a lie. And so the situation that came up recently that I've seen multiple times is that someone client who's like was super experienced in the work they do was adding some new skills. And in adding the new skills, they wanted to be really honest and in integrity with their audience and say like, "Oh yeah, this is brand new. I'm just learning this." Wanting to do a bunch of free sessions on it. Like why? And in conversations about it, it's like that wasn't really true. Like it wasn't like that wasn't really like an honest appraisal of their skill. They had so much skill with what they did. And now I'm thinking of somebody like several years ago. It's like the same situation comes up over and over again. There's so much skill at what they did that picking up the new skill they picked up really quickly. They were kind of like the top of the class or whatever, because everybody else was brand new in terms of, being either a practitioner or being able to hold space or whatever the thing was. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, so you need some practice. And so like there's things that you need to, like you want to be accountable and you want to be cautious but you're already skilled and you're already good at this. Like even though you just took the course, because you didn't just take the course. You took the course so it's like it's that. And by telling the lie that they were brand new at this and that they didn't know what they were doing and that they needed more practice than they really needed, they were both undermining the confidence that their clients might have in them, but they were also undermining their own confidence in themselves, which of course makes you, when you're not trusting yourself, it's harder to be in flow. You can't be in flow. And then you can't be as effective with your clients because you're like second guessing yourself because you think that you're less experienced than you are. And so that's, that, and I have other examples from other realms, like when people are wanting to do like, oh, wanting to do things to expand the business. And so thinking about collaborations with people, but then holding such a high bar that somebody else has to meet before you're willing to collaborate them with them. Yes, you don't want to work with people that are totally out of integrity or that are, like you don't want to associate with, but it's okay to associate with humans. It's like anyway, I think you get a flavor of what I'm saying. So
It almost sounds like in these cases, integrity is something that I turn into an ego thing, whether it's inflating my ego or deflating,
yes,
as we do. It's not true.
right.
It's not standing in, it's not being real. Hey, I'm skilled. I can help.
Mhm.
Yes, this particular application or tool is new to me, but I'm bringing this, and this is what you get. So
Yes.
you don't have to downplay it. It's really good to hear. And I see that as a sneaky way that people can justify their, let's call them their money thinking, their scary money thinking. Like, oh, well, or the value and worth conversation. Like, oh no, well, I'm integrities and I haven't been doing this that long, so I'm not gonna charge, or I'm gonna only charge a tiny bit because that's integrity. And it isn't either. What do you see
Right.
around that with pricing
Yeah.
and that kind of
I
thing?
think that yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's not yeah, it's not being honest with oneself around that. And so the thing that I love about Sufism is that it often turns common teachings on their head to kind of get at
Mm,
the truth of them. So when people come and they say like, okay, well, I'm not worthy, or, I don't know how to hold the value or hold the worth. One of the ways, one of the most effective ways I've found to get at that is to actually say, yeah, you're right. Like we aren't worthy. Like there's a healthy humility and surrender that's not really embraced by our culture so much. And I'm so dependent on my connection, my heart's connection to the divine. I'm so dependent on everything around me. I'm not like I don't have to try to hold value or hold worth. Like I'm at my most effective or most powerful or most real when I'm surrendered and something can come through me. I it's like the way to that is one of the ways that we talk about this in Sufism in my spiritual path is that everything that exists comes from the divine. And it gets distorted in our physical 3D world, but if something has a persistent reality to it, like a worthlessness or worthiness issues or things like that, it's because at the heart of that there's something true. So if people say, "Gosh, I don't feel worthy," what is it like to take some time and embrace and say, "Okay, am I worthy? Like, am I what's really the question here?" Like asking the question as a sincere question. Am I worthy? And often what comes through in those moments is it's not about worthiness. It's like you're the one that's here. If somebody's in front of you and they're hurt and you're available to help them, it's not about whether you're the most trained or the most expert or like the best, whatever, to be able to help the person. It's like you're there. And so surrendering to that and saying it's not about being worthy, it's about where are you standing? Like, where are your feet? Where is your heart? Can you show up for this? And that requires a humility, it requires a surrender that I think is a much more powerful pathway in to these questions than I remember, like in my early days of doing this work, and it's been like 24 years I've been doing this. I used to kind of wrestle, how try to do healings around worthiness or value, and they never worked. They never took because it was like chasing a tail. It just like there's nothing there. Like it's not a valid question. And so there's not a valid answer. And but when we came into this place of sincerity and surrender, then people found like, oh, I can stand on solid ground. I can meet this. This has been placed in front of me. I can meet this. And it's like, okay, I need to earn a living. And I'm doing this work that people really help, that are really helped by. I can surrender the fact that I need to charge for this. Like that charging, like I'm not independently wealthy. I don't have other forms of support. There are people who like I've encountered folks who, for whatever reason they have resources and they're like, you know what? I don't feel like charging for this. I'm like, "Do you have to?" And they're like, "No, I don't have to." Well, then don't. Like, if you don't like it, like you like we're not there's no inherent right answer to a situation. There's no formula. It's like, what is your heart being called to? And if you're being called, it's like, I need to make a living and I have this skill and have these people that I can help, then it's going to be a much more honest, a much more real thing to do to face that and surrender to that rather than tussle with this question of, am I worthy? It's like, doesn't matter whether you're worthy. Like, that's not a question.
I love that response to it. What I hear in it is what I've seen when I see it most clearly, which is it's not about me at all. Right? It's not about me. When I make it about me, it becomes painful and I make up this idea of worthiness and unworthiness and value and all of that. But there's just this is what is. Here I am. How I think of it this way. I don't know that I'm sure not everyone does, but like, how would life like to use me? What's the opportunity here? Another way to say it that's maybe a little less spiritual is what is asking to be created? And I think that creation has within it discovery and beauty and growth, right? So it feels like a positive thing,
Mhm.
that creation that is asking to be experienced. And that's just how it looks to me. I don't know that that's the way it is, but that's what has been arising as I think about myself less and show up with what is more. And it seems to answer those questions and untangle the confusions. It's lovely.
Yeah. I love how you put that. Mm.
So, what does it look like if everything in business can be an act of love, can come from love? And why couldn't it? Because anything can. We can do anything with loving kindness. We can be with loving kindness. And we can choose things that express that, as you were speaking about earlier. What does it look like when selling is an act of love?
It looks beautiful. It looks marvelous. It's, it's so interesting. Like, when I first created our sacred selling course back in 2008 that we've been teaching, one of the things I wanted to look at was like, what does the word sell actually mean? And it comes from an Old English word, seljan. So I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it right. I don't know how to speak Old English, but it's seljan. Like the original meaning of this word is to give to someone voluntarily in response to a request. Hey, Mark, can I have that? Can I have the pen? Oh, yeah, sure. Here's the pen. That's selling. That's the essence of it. That's the heart of it. An act of love means that we respect and honor each other. It means that we are deep in a culture of consent where we trust each other's choices and each other's knowing. It's a culture of kindness where we're caring for one another. We're not letting go of our own needs, but we're paying attention to other people's needs as well. It's a culture of service and care. Like, how can we help each other? It's a culture of equals. And so selling can be not an attempt to get someone to make the decision that I want them to make, but a discovery process of, "I is what I'm offering the right thing to help you? And what and how, and what is going on for you?" And it's a chance to witness each other and to be with each other in a sacred way, and also be as practical as we need to be. Like, what are the issues? What are you facing? What's going on? Can I help? Is what I'm doing actually going to be able to help you? And then giving them the space to make the choice, especially when someone is in a vulnerable place and they're feeling stuck. giving them the space to make a decision and the time to make the decision, not in each other's presence, so that they can be completely centered in themselves. There's a lot of pieces in this, that we teach with, there's a lot of stages to that conversation that you can put under a microscope to be able to find the love in each little step. Not that it's complicated. Mostly it goes as a flow, but it's like when you can see it, then it's easier to not misstep or not fall into really toxic things that we've taken on unconsciously from the culture. But it can be a really beautiful process of meeting each other.
I love that. I think one of my favorite quotes, and hopefully I'll be able to get it right, about selling comes from Michael Neal, and he gave a definition of selling. He said, selling is helping people get what they actually want. And then he adds, like, preferably that's your product or service, but it might not be. It isn't necessarily. So, how do you do that? You have to first understand, listen, ask, what is it that you actually want? Actually, not what they think they want, but like what they actually want, and then help them get it. And when it's a match, that's a sale. If it's
Right.
not a match, it's a relationship building connection. It's like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Maybe try this person over there, go over this direction. I don't have that, but this person might.
Right.
Um,
It's so important. I love that. And Michael brings a lot of wisdom. And one of the things that we teach is that, it's rare. One of the things that's really underestimated is how long it takes someone to come to a significant purchasing decision. And we don't really recommend going into a full-on sales conversation with somebody who doesn't know you and your business. It's much more common for folks to have some experience with you and your work, with your business, and then go into a sales conversation already having built some trust and some connection. And it's much it's much more likely that they have gone through some of the preparation so that you're honoring their time and your time. Because if you're in a conversation too early, it can be frustrating because you're going towards a decision that's not ready to be made yet. And people can come out of those conversations when they're done too early, either having said yes and regretting it, or having said no and shutting a door to something they might want later, or just leaving a really open loop going, I have to think about it, but their thinking about it might be weeks or months rather than a couple days. That's more common when someone's already familiar with your business. And so honoring that preparation time. I mean, so many of the people that we work with do it's not a bagel and cream cheese, It's like there's it's a more significant decision, and it's not just the money, but it's the commitment of time, it's the vulnerability. People need to be ready for that. And yeah.
mm. One of the things that is important to me, and I see this most with one on one clients, if it's, a one to many, I think it's still present, but I don't see it quite as much, is I know that people will know what's right for them when they're settled down, when
Yeah.
they're calm, when they're, as you said, in themselves. And if they're not there now, if they're too eager, if they're over like, let's go. I'm like, well, let's slow it down.
Yes, I do the same thing. Yes.
It feels too much. It doesn't feel right. I don't want to enter in that way. Let's both be clear. I need to be clear too. I need some space here. What are we even doing? Who are you? How can I help you? Like, I need to have those conversations. And I think there's a place for that even in courses. I don't really know what that looks like, but I know in the one on one client relationship process or small groups, it feels
Mhm,
very important to me. It's like, don't rush it, relax.
mhm.
Yes, as you said, there might be a deadline, a time date. We're starting on this date. However, if it's for you, you'll know. If it's not, that's okay. Let yourself calm down first
Mhm.
and know. And I have helped people do that, but I think it's actually most to give space. It's like
Yes.
help them do it now and then go think about it.
Yes.
Not don't think
Yes.
about it. Just sit with it for a good
Right.
24 hours at least. Like take your
Yes.
time and let me know. And man, even when the answer is no for them, it creates such beautiful relationships that it
It
only
does.
brings good things. And it's good for everyone. And we can do business that way. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. And honestly, because business is more sustainable, profitable, we thrive more easily with repeat business, people who stick around and people who have a good opinion of you and are willing to share that. This is actually a way more effective than trying to get quick sales. And I have some thoughts about how to do this in one to many in courses too. One to one work, because of what it is, requires a certain, like it's intimate and it's vulnerable and you have to be engaged, or like, what are you doing? But there's a lot of different ways to engage with a course. And so sometimes, you know, uh, I like to encourage people that if the core, yes, slow down, make the choice, take your time. But even if you're unsure, if you're leaning towards yes, would it feel okay to you to take the course if you didn't have to be 100% committed? If you can skim and take in what feels good, or if you didn't feel like you had to keep up with it, but you could just take in what's right for you. Like, is it okay that that you don't have to do it 100%, but just get what you need out of it? And for me, that's, I encourage people with that because this whole 100% committed, I do think that spiritually, when it's possible, we want to be 100% present in a moment. But I don't know about you, but a lot of our clients they have kids or they have elders that they're caring for, or they have jobs, or they're running a business, or they have chronic illness, or they have all kinds of things, or they have complex trauma, or they have all of these things. And it's really impossible for them to make in their minds like the what we conceive of 100% commitment without harming themselves.
Mm.
And I really like to make it okay. It's like you don't like it's a course. Like you're going to learn things. Uh, I mean, my wife and I have been together for 30 years. We're 100% committed in the relationship. But there are times I'm like, I didn't hear what you said. I was zoning out, or what? It's like not 100% committed in every moment. I mean, you can't, it's not human. And so holding things in a lot of gentleness and a lot of humanity is so important. We planted our watermelon plant. Holly planted it. She does. We kind of split up tasks. Anyway, it got into the ground way later than we wanted it to, and it wasn't as prolific with watermelons as we wanted to. But man, watermelon we're eating now is delicious. It's amazing, and things can be really worthwhile, even and and they're not perfect, and they're worthwhile because they're not perfect, because they're actually like, we can actually engage with it at a human level.
And I love that, the invitation to just to show up, take what works for you, bow out when it doesn't. You get to show up as you. That's again, it's real. It's
I
not
tell people
yeah.
right. I tell people when they show up on our courses, anything I'm teaching virtually, it's like, you don't have to turn your camera on. You can show up late, you can leave early. Like, take care of yourself. Like, this is for you. Like, it's rare that at least it's nice for me as a presenter to have some people have their cameras on. But even if nobody has their cameras on, I mean, I started out in the era of like voice conference calls. So video conferencing came later anyway. So I can go into that mode. without an issue. But regardless, I'm a big boy. I can deal if I have any issues of abandonment, I'll process them. It's like it's like take care of yourselves. And I think we can give such permission for people to show up imperfectly, perfectly imperfect, and that actually allows people to show up. Whereas if they feel like they have to show up perfectly, many people won't show up, and rightly so.
Nice. So, Mark, what is in your heart right now that you wish people knew, in particular, people we might call heart centered entrepreneurs? What do you wish they really knew that would make a difference for them?
There's a lot. But let me say this one thing. I want to say that the system that we exist within, colonialist, white supremacist, patriarchal, sexist, homophobic, capitalism, has done a number on all of us. And, it's how I start my book out. It's like if you have issues around business, these are not personal mindset things. This is wisdom, and you're not supposed to get over it. I want people to know that their issues with business are not personal to them and there's nothing wrong with them and they don't have to it's like we're existing in a really I've heard our culture described not as a culture, but as a collection of trauma responses. And I'm laughing because I would weep otherwise because it feels really true. And that we need each other. We need the love. We need gentleness. We need so much compassion and spaciousness. And I want people to know that this is not personal to them so that they can trust their hearts. I want people to trust themselves. And if you're having a reaction to business or a reaction to money, reaction to selling or marketing or systems or anything else, it's because it's arising from wisdom. Now, it might be overly loud. And it might be that you do need to lean in and get uncomfortable to be able to find a path through that is filled with love, because there are pathways filled with love through these topics. But the response, the reaction has wisdom in it because I want all of us to trust ourselves more. Because if we trusted ourselves more, we could act more in love. And if love was really unleashed in the world of business, it would annihilate it and change it into something that would be much more of service to us all.
Mm, a world beyond business. I wonder what that would be. Wow, that's lovely to contemplate. Thank you, Mark. Wow. And if people are intrigued about what you're up to, where is the best place they can find you and what you're doing these days?
Our website, heartofbusiness.com. Get on our email list, check out some of our free stuff to see if it's one thing to be in a lovely conversation with you. It's another thing hey, does the business stuff actually work? Check us out. I also have a book, which is a really low commitment way to get to know our approach as well. Heart-centered business, healing from toxic business culture so your small business can thrive. Yeah, get to know us and then your heart will know if you want more from us or not.
Beautiful invitation. Thank you, Mark. And congratulations on your book, by the way. I know this is not a small thing to take what it is you've learned and put it into a format where it can be shared as a tangible book, which still exists, these things called books, which I love. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being with me today. It's been a great pleasure.
It has been. Thank you so much for the space that you hold. It's just lovely. I'm grateful you're in the world doing what you're doing.
Thanks so much for joining me for today's Wildspire conversation. If you'd like to receive a weekly Wildspire email from me filled with inspiring stories, unmarketing experiments, tips for playing your way to impact and income without the hustle and hype, insights from my spiritual business journey, and more, go to theawakenedbusiness.com/wildspire. Until next time, may you know yourself as the gorgeous wild creation you are.